Happy holidays, everybody, and Tony here with a tribute to a Christmas special from a Disney cartoon that I not only loved and adored, but also praised for its fun, enjoyable, and absolutely amazing characters, its exciting and creative scenarios, and just how much nostalgic value it had, which still held up so well to this very day. I'm talking about, yes, Mikey, Santa Does Shave from Recess, which aired on December 26, 1998. This episode was directed by Susie Dieter and it was written by Mark Drop, Holly Huckins, and Phil Walsh. I love the absolute heck out of Recess. It is one of my most favorite Disney cartoons of the late 1990s, and I just enjoy so much from this show, from its wonderful characters, especially the main six, consisting of TJ the leader, Vince the athlete, Mikey the lovable big guy, Gus the nerd who also has a military background, Gretchen the brainiac, and Spinelli the tough girl, to its wonderfully exciting scenarios which brim with great creativity, and it never left me bored. And there are even characters that I enjoyed hating, like Randall Weems, the school snitch. Even though he is quite despicable as a character, I still enjoyed hating his guts because of just how delightful he was in terms of his spite. And yes, even the teachers such as Miss Finster, Miss Grotke, and Principal Prickly were all thoroughly entertaining. I could compare this show to Hey Arnold from Nickelodeon, but unlike Hey Arnold, which is far more subdued, subtle, and more down to earth, Recess is exciting, creative, and it just brims with so much fun. And when it comes to the nostalgic value Recess has, this show makes me feel like I want to be a kid again, enjoying playing in the playground and having a lot of exciting adventures just like the Recess gang had. And this particular Christmas special managed to not only leave me with a big smile on my face, but also left me feeling warm and fuzzy inside. Sure, the old adage of hope and faith being the absolute pinnacles of the holidays is heard over and over again to the point of regurgitation, but here, in terms of how Recess handled it, I thought they were able to do a really good and endearing job with it. Now, the main attribute of this particular Christmas special is the importance of faith. And even though Hank's and Mikey's stories do seem worlds apart, they are actually parallels of each other because of just how much faith they have, even in spite of all adversity. Hank the janitor believes that 3rd Street will see its first snowfall this holiday season, while Mikey is so adamant that Santa will not only bring him presents, but will be in his life in flesh and blood. Now, even though Mikey is optimistic and hopeful that Santa will come, especially to see the Christmas pageant, especially considering that the Christmas pageant is also aired as a live TV broadcast, Mikey's other friends feel like they've kind of outgrown Santa Claus. But that doesn't stop Mikey from writing his letter to Santa, and it also doesn't stop the school from all the preparations as well as the introduction of Mr. Bream, a Hollywood executive producer, coming into the play to make this live broadcast of 3rd Street Elementary School's Christmas play come to fruition. Mr. Bream believes that there is no kid that's special, but that is until Principal Prickly introduces him to Mikey, who has also been acknowledged for his baritone singing voice. At first, Mikey is hesitant to perform Santa, given his first 2 failed takes to make a proper ho ho ho. However, With the encouragement of Principal Prickly, Mikey has to remember the time that he has been coached by Miss Salamoni, a music teacher he had a crush on in a few episodes prior. Now, this moment is quite pinnacle because I do enjoy Miss Salamoni as a teacher. Not only was she the catalyst to bring Mikey's talents as a singer to full fruition and let them be out in the open, but she was also the object of Mikey's affections. And one can really tell that when he let that ho 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 belt out with his signature baritone voice, you can definitely tell that he learned a lot of wonderfully valuable lessons from Miss Salamoni. And I definitely salute her for bringing out Mikey's artistic talents and even polishing them so well, thus making him the perfect candidate to portray Santa Claus for the upcoming live broadcast of the school's Christmas pageant. Sure, Mikey continues to be extremely excited of this prospect and he wants to invite Santa, but Randall, the school weasel, dissuades him by saying that Santa is not real. Mikey, as adamant as ever, tries to prove that Santa is real, but the 3 attempts that he has tried all fail. The first attempt failed because the Santa that he tried to pursue was actually a mall Santa who ended up being completely disgruntled that the other mall Santa ended up being in the food court, thus taking all of his anger out on the recess gang, especially Mikey because he was too big to fit on his knee. Then we also had the second failed attempt in which Santa was actually the mayor, and the third failed attempt is what really broke Mikey as he found out that Santa was none other than a very well-known radio personality. Now, watching Mikey cry made my heart go out to him so much because it made me empathize with him, as I also wanted to see him have his happy ending and even be happy with Santa in his life. His hopes are dashed as he ends up tearing the letter that he intended to send to Santa, and they all flutter in the air, thus spurring Mikey on not to attend the Christmas pageant. Unfortunately for the main live stream Christmas pageant, Randall Weems would have to take over Mikey as Santa Claus, much to Principal Prickly's dismay, which is also understandable because Mikey really fit the mold as Santa. And speaking of Mikey, he was still down in the dumps until he meets an old man that he has a very nice and warm conversation with in terms of the importance of faith and how faith, even though it can't be seen, can be believed. Sure, it's an old adage that we've heard so many times, but here I thought it was handled with genuineness and it did not talk down to me as an audience member. In fact, it kind of spoke to me. This pep talk that Mikey had with the old man spurs him on to return to the Christmas pageant as Santa Claus, much to the joy of Principal Prickly and Mr. Bream. This also leads to my most favorite moment of this episode, which managed to tug at my heartstrings and made me feel so elated for Mikey and the rest of his friends and everyone involved in the Christmas pageant, as well as the audience watching. And that was Mikey's rendition of I'm Dreamin' of a White Christmas, which he sang so beautifully. And it's also thanks to Robert Goulet's baritone voice, which was so well coordinated and well toned that he managed to convey the song with such beauty and so much warmth. That is what I describe this scene as. It made me have a warm feeling on the inside, and it brought me so much elation, and it touched me in the heart. This also leads to another miracle where snow ended up falling on 3rd Street for the very first time, thus making Hank's wishes and hopes come true. The audience is just as elated as I was, as well as Principal Prickly and Mr. Bream. And as soon as the pageant is over, all the kids enjoy their very first snowfall, complete with tobogganing, skiing, skating, snowball fights, you name it. The absolute elation on their faces was just so satisfying and so phenomenal to watch. Even Mikey gets a final word of encouragement from the old man, as he was there to watch the show. And Mikey was at first befuddled as to why he ended up being in the show. And that's because the old man received his letter. Mikey thought he tore up that letter, but here it was in the flesh, all well repaired and without anything being defiled. This makes Mikey realize, as well as the other recess gang, that it really was Santa Claus. And the episode ends with Santa Claus riding through the night with a full moon in full shape. As I stated before, though the old adage of faith does get very tiring, especially for people who are rather sick and tired of its message, this message of faith and hope still hold true to this particular Christmas episode. Hank's and Mikey's stories do intertwine so well, and you can really tell the parallels that they have with each other. With Hank, with so much fervent belief, wanting snow and hoping that snow will fall on 3rd Street, and Mikey hoping and praying that Santa Claus will come to town in the full flesh. They were the ones that made this episode happen. And even though I did enjoy Hank's subplot, it's ultimately Mikey's show, and you really have to give credit to Jason Davis for what he was able to accomplish as Mikey, bringing in a lot of innocent charm, lovability, and just that old soul brimming from this particular character made him all the more memorable. And when I felt Mikey's disappointments and hopes being dashed, I certainly felt that, thanks to Jason Davis's really masterful portrayal of not only embodying Mikey, but being Mikey. Special acknowledgement also has to go to James Earl Jones as the old man who was in reality Santa Claus, as he was able to use that fine baritone voice to bring in not only a sense of wisdom to this character, but also a lot of compassion, warmth, and understanding. Mikey's singing would not be complete without mentioning Robert Goulet, whose baritone voice was not only greatly coordinated, but also clean, warm, rich, and absolutely faultless. There was no fault to be had with his voice, and he made me completely elated when he managed to give Mikey his singing voice with such great aplomb. So I cannot recommend Yes, Mikey, Santa Does Shave enough, especially to those who are fans of Recess, and even fans of Disney cartoons in general, let alone people who love animated series centered around kids having fun and getting themselves into a lot of interesting scenarios. This was a Christmas special that managed to leave a warm and fuzzy feeling in my heart, and for that, I give it high marks for doing so. And for those of you who caught Yes, Mikey, Santa Does Shave from Recess, what'd you think of it? Did you feel that Mikey's story and Hank's story were absolutely brilliant to the point where they complemented each other? Did you feel that Mikey, as well as his happy ending of performing the role of Santa, as well as seeing the real Santa, made you have something absolutely great inside to the point where you rooted for him? Or did you feel like there was just something not completely great about this episode? Comment below and let me know. Well, that's all for my tribute to Yes, Mikey, Santa Does Shave. Tune in much later for my tribute to A Very Possible Christmas from Kim Possible. So until then, happy holidays, everybody!